So in this video, I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the pros and the cons of living in Houston, Texas. Hello everyone. It's Ngozi and welcome back to Ejima. Hello. A lot of people are moving to Houston. As we all know, we've seen the trend ever since the pandemic in 2020. A lot of people have been leaving the Northeast and moving down south. And of course, Houston has been one of the popular locations. All right, everywhere has the good and the bad. All right, when you try to make this type of videos, some people, especially natives, and you understand, could take a little personally, and it's not an attack. If I was to make a video on where I'm from, I have a lot of good and a lot of bad. That's just life. Nowhere is perfect, right? With that being said, doesn't mean that you don't like where you are, doesn't mean that you don't enjoy it, but we're on YouTube. A lot of people use YouTube as a primary source. I met a subscriber, I believe Diamond, hi Diamond if you're watching, who told me watching my videos on Houston is what made her decide to move here. All right, sometimes when you're making this content, you don't realize the impact that you're having on people. So a lot of people use YouTube as, you know, a really big source, a reliable source. It's the second biggest search engine after Google. So it would be remiss and unfair of me to not share as much information as I can for people who are using this content to make life-altering decisions, all right? So in this video, I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the pros and the cons of living in Houston, Texas. If this type of content seems interesting to you, stay tuned and don't forget to like this video. It really helps the channel, all right? So let's get into it. All right, we're going to start with the cons. We can finish up on a positive note, all right? So the first con, I would say, or something that a lot of people, and it may not even be specific to me, but a lot of people, I guess, complain about or discuss is the weather. Yes, to me, the weather is a pro and also a con, to be honest. But in terms of the weather, the con will be the unpredictability. Houston, like one thing I can say being here is that the weather is very up and down. Some days it's raining, some days it's hot, some days it's like 50 degrees. Like it really can be a bit unpredictable. A lot of people talk about keeping an umbrella in your car, not knowing when it's going to rain, sometimes not seeing rain in the forecast, and you get stuck in rain. The unpredictable and the extreme weather in Houston could be considered a con. Like for example, the flooding, the raining, those things, the extreme heat in the summer, that definitely could be a con. Number two is the property taxes. I do not own a home, but I know one of the first things I saw people talking about when I started researching the content, when I started researching Houston content, is the property taxes. I know Houston is known for a lot of good things. We're going to get into the pros soon, but I think to offset some of the positives when it comes down to the cost of living here, property taxes are known to be high. All right, it's the sixth highest in America. I don't really know the numbers. I've spoken to people and they give me an idea of like where they live, how big their house is, and what they're paying. And to me, from coming up north, honestly, it still sounded reasonable. But I have to remember that it's a lot for people here. It's a lot for the cost compared to the cost of living here. The property tax is pretty high. Number three, driving. A lot of highways, a lot of traffic. Like I mentioned before, I work from home and I'm blessed, but for those who have to go into work, please consider this when deciding where you want to move. I would not suggest going to live in North Houston and your job is in Southwest. Like you're going to be Monday through Friday, you're going to be sitting in your car for hours every day. So I would really keep that in consideration when looking for a spot. Number four, I know I may be a little nerdy for this, is recycling. Recycling is not a thing in Houston. Like when I first came here, I was so taken aback. Like my apartment doesn't do it, but I'm looking for apartments. A lot of other places don't do it. It's not a thing. Even when I go out to restaurants or I go out, you know, some in front of like places, I don't see those bins that I'm used to seeing up north, like paper, plastic, recycling. Like I was in Philly a couple of weeks, saw it in Jersey. I'm used to that. The city, New York. So recycling is not a thing here. So what I do, I get made fun of, is that I collect my recycling and I take it to the recycling center. I first thought I was gonna be doing it monthly. I just went this week and I hadn't been in 3 months. So I'm like, I had to just get it out. It's like piled up bottles, cardboard, all of it. And I just get rid of it there because honestly, I just feel so bad throwing out that type of stuff. It also makes the garbage fill up quick. It's bulky. Like I don't want to put all that stuff in my garbage. So that's something to really, look into recycling. Like, none of these things like the end of the world, but it's just to give awareness about some of the things that struck me as different or like as a con moving up north to Houston. And honestly, it may be a southern thing. I know when I first went to Charlotte to visit Nnena, I noticed her apartment didn't recycle. A lot of places didn't recycle either in Charlotte. So I really think it may just be a southern thing, recycling. Let me know in the comments if this is a southern thing or if it's state by state or if this is not a big deal for people, but it's something that struck me off guard. Number 5, a con Houston is the bugs. Cockroaches, flying roaches, worm, all like a lot of bugs down here. A lot of just wildlife, it's hot, it's humid, a lot of greenery, a lot of space, a lot of land. So of course, you're gonna see a lot of animals, bugs in particular, and I mentioned this in my previous video about pest control being a thing here. Make sure, wherever you're going, pest control is a thing. Good pest control, not pet. I've heard of some companies that don't use good products, so people keep coming back to them. It's like a business, a scam. You want to make sure you're dealing with good people. It's not about being dirty. I talk about how coming from up north, when we thought of cockroaches, we thought that was only in dirty people's houses or in the projects. But trust me, I keep a very clean place, and it's not even when they come here, it's not a dirt cleanliness thing. It's the environment, it's openings, it's weather. So when it cools down, they definitely slow down a bit, but that's just something to keep in mind, that there is a lot of bugs down here. And I would say number 6, the con, is that one thing I really noticed down here that I guess I wasn't expecting is the poverty. And I'll get into a little more, like, under the bridges and highways, it's very common to come out and you'll see people like off the corner, even in the middle of the dividers, if it's like a two-way, begging, signs. Saw a man this week, had his wife in a wheelchair, child is sick, gave him something, they have signs, don't give them panhandlers money, do this instead. And I get it, but sometimes you just want to help, and you don't want to start going through all these programs, you're not entitled to, you're not obliged to, whatever the spirit, whatever you're led to do. But I have noticed a lot of poverty down here. And when I checked online, it says that Houston has a little over, the poverty rate in Houston is a little over 19%, so 19.62%, so about 20%. So to me, that's pretty high. That's high for a city. I don't know what it is in other cities. I guess I would compare it to somewhere like New York. Yeah, I checked the poverty rate for NYC and it's 17.3%. So honestly, that rate of about 20% really struck me as a lot. I know there's a way they do the calculations, average salaries, 175% within like a certain salary. There's a lot of calculations that they do to really consider what they would consider someone who is living in poverty. And people have to remember that people just begging on the street are not the only poor people. There's people who are living, who are in apartments, who are poor, who would be considered within that poverty rate. So being that is, somewhere that a lot of people go to because of affordability, it really just struck me how so many people are still struggling financially. And it was really a bit upsetting, but to me, that is one of the cons when it comes to Houston. All right. So on a lighter note, let's get into the pros, all right? The pros definitely outweigh the cons. That's why I am here. So let's get into the pros of living in Houston, Texas. Number 1, cost of living. It has been going up. Don't get me wrong, it has been going up. Houston is not as cheap as people think it is. I talk about this all the time. I was recently apartment hunting and my eyes were going like, of course I was looking at, places that were a little on the pricey end, I understand, but like, it's not as cheap as people think. The only difference is that even if, let's say, you're going to spend $2,000 here and $2,000 in New Jersey, you're going to get more for your money here. But it doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily spend less. You're just going to get more, if that makes sense. So a lot of people think you're going to come here and get an apartment for $500. No. This year alone, we've seen inflation. Things have gone up crazy just from moving here. I've seen the changes in the gas prices up and down. That's lowering right now. I've seen the changes in groceries, places I went to, places I usually frequent, hair salons. I've seen everyone's putting up their prices. So things are just becoming more and more expensive. Houston is still a lot more affordable than a lot of cities in America, especially major cities. All right, when we think of major cities, Miami, Manhattan, LA, they're so expensive to live in, so expensive. So Houston still gives you that city feel but at a lower cost. And I think that's really something that drives a lot of people here. I looked up the average cost of a 1-bedroom in Houston on Rent Cafe, and I got about $1,304, and that would give you 881 square feet. So compared to other cities, and of course in that average is they have the higher end. Let me look it up to make sure I'm giving y'all all that information. But even then, remember, you know, depending on the area, and there are more expensive areas in Houston, there are more affordable areas. So that's just giving you an average. So you can definitely get something for less, something even decent for less, but it's giving you an average cost. And compared to a lot of other cities, that is still very reasonable. On Rent Cafe, they break down rents. They have like a range and a percentage. So 70% of apartments in Houston are between $701 and $1,500, 1-bedroom apartments. So that's the bulk of the apartment. So basically, you have a 7 out of 10 chance of renting an apartment in Houston for anything between $700 and $1,500. So that's reasonable, you know, and about 17% of apartments are between 1,501 and 2,000, and then 8% over 2,000, and that's 1-bedrooms. All right. So pretty reasonable compared to other cities, other major cities in particularly. Something else that makes Houston cost of living lower is that there's no state tax, right? Only 9 states in America don't have state income tax, so that is a big deal. Trust me, like I know Florida is one of them, I believe Alaska, there's a few others, but it is a big deal. So you definitely see the difference. I mentioned in one of my videos how when I first moved down here and I had adjusted my taxes from, you know, where I was in up north to here, I saw the difference in the paycheck. So it is something that helps people keep a little more money in their pockets, right? Another pro with Houston is the food. Oh my gosh, like the food scene here is like, I know they say New York has a great food scene, and they do, but there's something about just being in the South, being in Texas, being in Houston, like it's on another level, y'all. I've gained 15 pounds this year. I'm trying to really work hard to get it off. And I think there's a lot of factors. I think the big factor is working from home, to be honest. I'm just naturally not as active, even though I work out like above average. So I think there's a lot of factors contributing to that, but the food may definitely be one. I do cook a lot, most of my food, but like Houston, like you can eat so well here. Like all types of food, whether you want Vietnamese, you want soul food, you want Nigerian food, you want, you know, Lebanese, it's anything you want. Like it's really just want some steak, American food, you know, so much good food. And that's something that, you know, a lot of states, I think cities specifically, can't really boast of. And kind of piggying off that, I think the reason why Houston has such great food is that it's so diverse. Houston is super diverse. Like, wow. Like, there's so many cultures, ethnicities, races. You could find like almost every, I believe over 160 of the 194 countries in the world are represented in Houston alone. So yeah, it's so diverse. Houston's population is about 2.4 million, and then the greater Houston, which includes like the metro areas and like the suburbs, is about 7 million. So it is a lot of people, and a lot of people are represented here. When it comes down to the demographic breakdown, it also has a large Black population compared to like other major cities, about 22%. Which is great, you know, I'm like, you know, it's great to me, but also it's about 51% white, 11% others, about 7% Asian, and then you have like native, like Pacific Islanders, like very small percentages of that, which is consistent with a lot of states in America. But the interesting thing is that when I was looking at these statistics, I wondered, you know, where are Spanish people? Because as you know, Houston has a lot of Spanish people here, and actually I'm supposed to say Hispanic people. And the interesting things that a lot of people don't know is that Hispanic is not a race, it's an ethnicity. You know, so you could be Hispanic and identify as white, you could be Hispanic and identify as Black, you could be Hispanic and identify as, you know, mixed, you could be Hispanic and identify as, you know, a lot of Native American, like Native Indian, like there's a lot of ways Hispanic people identify as. So the interesting part is that when I didn't see Hispanic, and I realized that they had put Hispanic within each of the racial groups. So when you look at the overall percentage of the racial groups, of the 51% that's white, 27% is Hispanic from that population. So technically Houston's Caucasian population is 24%. And then 27% is Hispanic. And then of the other, that's about 11.8% 11.35%, 11.08%. Within that 11.35% are people who identify as Hispanic. So basically the other population is Hispanic as well. Then within the Black population, it was very low, which kind of struck me by surprise, but it doesn't really, I guess it should have surprised me, being that maybe geographically where we are, the Hispanic people that are more likely to choose to live in Houston, and also the way some Hispanic people identify. I know there's a lot of anti-Blackness, to be honest, when it comes to, that's a topic for another conversation. And maybe just me coming from up north, I'm used to seeing a lot of Spanish people who look Black and identify as Black, but less than 1% of the Black of the 22% was Hispanic. So not a lot of Black identifying Hispanics. But yeah, so when you really do the math and add everything up, Houston is mostly Hispanic, 43%. That's the highest ethnicity, race, you know what I mean? So it's very interesting. So wrapping up, y'all, the last pro regarding living in Houston, Texas, I would say for sure is just, there's so much to do. Like, I feel like I haven't even begun to truly explore everything in Houston. I know sometimes people say, oh yeah, it's just the nightlife, which I understand to an extent. Nightlife is big here, like the clubbing scene, you know, brunch, food. I think those are big in all major cities, to be honest. But other than that, you know, we do have a theater. We do have all sports teams here. So we have a baseball team, a basketball team, a football team. So sports are a big thing here. I went to an Astros game over the summer. It was so much fun, even though I didn't understand what was happening. And Astros won the World Series this year. Yay! I was in Philly when they were playing, and the last set of games, and I don't follow baseball. I don't really understand it that well, but it was just I love sports. I'm a basketball girl, college basketball to be precise, women's college basketball to even be more precise. And I just love sports. They're just a great way to unify people from all walks of life. When people are into this, they're not worried about how much money you make, what color you are. Everyone's just rooting for their team and just want to, you know, feel that happiness and joy when their team wins. So that's really a positive with Houston. We have a lot of sports teams, and there's so much to do, so much, from museums to, you know, I mentioned food. You can go to a new restaurant every weekend and you would still not get through the restaurants probably in like 10 years. Like, that's how many restaurants, how much good food there is in Houston. Yeah, people are friendly, so it's not as hard to meet people. I know a lot of people, when moving, this is something they think about. Will I make friends? Will I struggle? And I think that's a very valid concern. It's not easy meeting people, especially as an older person. You're not in school, you're not going into a job every day, but I've been able to meet so many great people, and like, I'm blessed, honestly, to have the experience that I've had, and the people here are nice, honestly. So that's a really big thing. The people, things to do, and the people are great, and that's something to really keep in mind when relocating. You know, I feel like you can never really get bored in Houston unless you want to be bored, but like, there's something for everyone. But you all, let me know how you feel about my pros and cons regarding Houston, Texas. I have not been here a year yet, but that video, my 1-year update, will be coming up soon. So stay glued to our channel. We have content coming out. We're gonna try to finish this year strong. And if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. It's free. And make sure to put on your bell notifications so you get a notification whenever we have a video coming up or we're doing a live stream, because we do try and do those monthly. But let me know what you'd like to know about Houston. Are you thinking about moving to Houston and want to learn more about it? Are there any questions or concerns you have? Feel free to drop them down below in the comments, and we'll have a conversation down there. And until next time, bye.